Good morning, everybody. Welcome to IT Live. It is Monday morning, post Georgia game. Rough one. We're going to talk about where we're at with Texas football. And then after we address what we think the issues are, we're going to give you some solutions too. So I know chat's going to be a little bit wild, but present the problem, actual solutions. We're going to go from despair to the mountaintop of positivity. Join Inside Texas today, $1 for 1 month. We'd love to see you over there. Team news, analysis, recruiting, and an awesome board. Funny guys. I think the smartest board. Eric doesn't always agree for whatever reason, but I think they're pretty bright. All right, gentlemen.
Some of them are too smart for their own good, but you could be smart at one thing and not exactly smart at other. I mean, I would never question some of these other guys and what they do in their professional life, but then
it's the capability paradox. It's like the rich businessman that thinks because he's good at like engineering that he understands the world.
There's a lot of Dunning-Kruger going on right now. Which drives me crazy. I don't understand how people that know so little are so definitive. It's just, I know a decent amount, and I still have trouble being definitive on things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's be definitive here, though, Eric. Here's where we're at.
It's all going to be just fine. How about that?
That's
not this year.
Perfect.
Not this year. All right. So let's just talk through what we think are some kind of global issues, why the season is played out the way it has. And a big point that I agree with is, we're like 128th in penalties. And that hints at a larger problem of some discipline. And, Coach, you can illuminate it better because, you can practice for non-penalties, but like just saying like stop getting penalties like doesn't work either, So like how do you actually like what – is something occurring in practice? Are you trying to get people to jump? Are you calling holds and then pulling them? How do you actually solve a penalty issue?
Look, they bring referees out in fall camp and all that to do penalties, right? But there got to be some real accountability. If a guy continues to commit penalties, take him off the field, take away playing time. You just won't play. You won't travel, whatever the case. Like another guy will take your spot if you continue to commit penalties. And I think Eric Reno wrote about it on Saturday. Like, stop, you're allowing it to happen. You might yell at a kid who comes off the field, but you're going to put him right back out there. He's going to get another penalty. What lesson did he learn? There's no real punishment. So take away playing time. That's the only thing that hasn't happened. You keep putting kids out there in situations, it continues to happen. There's no real accountability for it.
Sark always says you get what you emphasize. So I'm wondering which way do they emphasize penalties?
Yeah. That was sick. That was a really good penalty. Well, and Sark has like been kind of particular, and you remember early on he was like way harder on the receivers. Like, if you were a second string receiver and you got on the field and did nothing wrong, we didn't see you again. It's like you went MIA. He's very weird with receivers. And then Quinn would throw like, the Oklahoma State game. It's like he has to stay in. So he had like this weird mix. Like sometimes he would penalize certain position groups, not others. Quarterback's different, but I'm trying to give you an example. But now it just seems like I don't know what's going on with special teams. We have, one person that as soon as I saw the flag on the field, I knew who the penalty was going to be on. That shouldn't be the case, right?
Right.
So I don't know how you actually solve it. I think that might be it. Hey, get off the field. But good luck, man. Like, what are you going to take Cole Hudson out for false starts? Are we going to bring back the left guard?
What is Warren Roberson? Let's say Warren Roberson plays his best, and that means he doesn't have a penalty. What's the win above replacement for having him on the field versus, say, I don't know, just randomly throwing a name out there, Kobe Black? What is the replacement value for that? Because we know what the punishment is with the penalties. He brings back a lot of big plays. But so I don't understand how he's so much better in the return game as a blocker than somebody else. It just, I don't get it. That one's a true mystery. And I'm not going to even try to defend it.
Yeah. So the discipline and like at awful times as well, man. It seems really poorly timed. I mean, the false start on Simmons, right? That felt like the Ohio State drive when they scored. Remember when we just like back-to-back penaltied it and just like gave it to them? And I see it earlier in the year, okay, but it's like I can't be seeing that versus Georgia late in the season as well, man. So that's just kind of the tricky part. And then discipline, do you guys include that in like the drops, execution side of it?
Drops for me are a little bit more difficult to That's not a discipline issue. That's an execution issue. It's a technique issue at times.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's a concentration issue. That's one where I don't really fault coaches. Great wide receivers. There are Hall of Fame wide receivers that had issues with drops in their career. I mean, it happens. Why they happened in that big game to guys that hadn't really had those issues before is a mystery. But why it happened to Wingo when he's had that problem throughout the season is not much of an mystery. You're going to go with the trade-off there. Hopefully you have a big play, and Wingo is a big play waiting to happen. Drops, the A&M first half debacle against South Carolina, they were dropping everything left and right. A&M was lucky that South Carolina was dropping everything left and right too on defense. Drops happen. It's part of the game. I don't really factor that as discipline, though. I mean, those guys work on the jugs machine, but that doesn't really replicate the game.
Yeah, the only way I can stretch it is – Sark all the week was like, this is the SEC championship. We have 2 weeks to prepare. We have to come and we come out slow. We come out with drops. So it's like, I think in a Venn diagram, I see a little bit of overlap,
He came out with a good game plan, and Arch came out ready to roll in those drops, and Wingo slipping all over the place. I mean, that Wingo left a lot of yards on the field and not just the drops.
Yeah. You want to pull up that one comment, Eric?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Did Anthony Hill suffer an injury in the second half?
Yes. I don't think it'll keep him out of playing against Arkansas, but yes. We'll see what they put in the practice in the injury report, but
yeah. Wingo's getting taken down by butterfly farts. Yeah, at some point it was. I think two of those twitchy guys, man, they slip more. I think their RPMs are higher than their and so it's like they're ready. They're 3 yards down the field and their legs are like, wait.
Yeah, that was bad. If you look at the all 22 angle of that, of the sky cast, it looked like he had a room. Man,
it was actually, it was well schemed.
That game could have gone differently. Obviously it didn't, and that's why we're going to have these hard talks today. But you could see that narrow path, the sliding doors outcome where it could have gone a little bit differently if a few things break their way. It's kind of feel bad for them, and then kind of like, okay, we've seen too many of these problems too often.
Yeah. Then of course we can't avoid the past telling the story of the present, and that's what's most disturbing to me. And for several factors, and our friend Jay Bass made a good point. It's like, how can you, and we're going to talk about a bunch of rooms, but he was like, how can you see a room with like, what's the Devontae Smith, Waddle? What's that photo of the 4 Alabama receivers?
Jerry Jeudy. And
how can you see that room and be like, all good? How can you see your offensive line from Alabama and even your offensive line last year and be like, all good? That's where, and coach in the NFL and see NFL players and be like, all good. That's where it's weird to me.
Yeah, I mean, when he first got to Texas, you saw it was coming fresh out of the 2020 offense that Alabama had with those 2 of those receivers were remaining, a couple left after 2019, I think. But at one point they were all there. And he offered this slow, tall kid out of modern day. And we were like, what is this? This is not exactly what we saw at at Alabama. So I don't think he recruited all those guys. He came in the first move he said was Xavier Worthy, and we're like, okay, this looks right. And then he started going CJ, what's his name at modern day, and it just nowhere close to what you saw. And that kid's been at like 5 different schools since then. It's just I don't know. The evaluation's been a little up and down. He's very honest about not looking for specific types. Ryan Wingo is obviously tremendously gifted. He's a lot different than Micah Hudson. Micah Hudson was the other guy that they're after in that class. And then until Micah went a little weird. They're not really looking for types. And sometimes that's good. And sometimes I'm not sure if it's good.
Yeah, I'm okay with saying like, look, I'm going to take the best receiver I see, regardless of, size, speed combination. And look, I was on Sark for being overly reliant on speed because I didn't feel like we had much contested stuff. And that's just personal preference, right? Like that's what I like in a receiver. Doesn't mean everyone has to like that in a receiver. But you still do need speed too. I wasn't saying get rid of the raw, but I want to see like, you don't have a lot of skilled route runners. Like Mosley's a skilled route runner. But I was saying at the beginning of the season, who can win in 5? Who can win on the goal line? Who can Noah Thomas you? Right? And so that's what I wanted to see. And we don't have a lot of pure skill. We have faster guys that can win on a crosser and get open. We have screen guys, but we don't have a lot of it's 3rd and 5. Sometimes it's an out with Livingston, but you get what I'm saying. I would like to see more pure skill in the wide receiver.
Yeah, recruit what scheme you want to run. Recruit to that. You can't just take guys and plug them in a hole. I don't think. Go find guys that actually fit your system, man.
Chris Jackson does not want one-trick ponies. He's not just looking for speed. But wide receiver eval. That's I remember getting on the first of all, getting on the Strong staff about CeeDee Lamb, and they just brushed us off, and then getting on the Herman staff about Jackson Smith and Jigba, basically begging them to offer that guy. Then basically begging them to try to get him out of the portal his first year. He didn't play much. And, it's like, he's just not a fit. Like, all right. That's wild. But if you see the NFL evaluations of look at all the different types of bodies in the NFL that can do really well. And if you go look at like how they test, there's not some sort of clear, like Nico Collins. He's a big old guy that's always open. How is that guy always open? I don't understand how he's always open. So it can be a difficult position to evaluate. To me, it's harder than some of the others because you can win with all different types of body types, but they have to develop skill no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what makes them great. That's what unlocks that speed and unlocks everything. If you can win on routes and know how to set guys up, then of course we'd be remiss to not mention offensive line. We know that there's problems there, but yeah, you say something about Sark not utilizing the veto power in the room to see that. What are your kind of quick thoughts on what happened there?
Well, it's the offensive line is a buildup. Talk about needing skill and technique and all that. You see these guys progress from one year to the next, and you should have a good idea in 2023 what your line in 2025 is going to look like at a bare minimum. Not how good it's going to be, but oh man, this guy's not going to be ready. And you should know by 2024 for sure. They knew that they were going to lose 4. They knew they were going to lose 3 for sure, and then a chance of 4. Like I was writing since Cam Williams was a freshman. He was capable of making a bad decision to leave early. If I knew that, they certainly knew that. So succession planning was poor. Sark put too much trust in Kyle Flood, trusting his guys. I think Sark might have trusted his own ability to scheme around any sort of, if the offensive line is average, he felt he could probably scheme around it. It turned out, they made some really bad decisions to not go in the portal, and then they made some bad decisions in the season with the offensive line that they ran out. They went with, I guess, what they felt was a higher upside line at the expense of setting a higher floor with the experienced line. So really bad development, some bad evaluation. I get, some of the evaluation I understand. Like, I'll go on the record and say I like this guy they're trying to flip from Stanford because there's an economic component to recruiting right now where if you can get a cheaper offensive tackle and develop him, it doesn't cost you much. As long as you're willing to, if it doesn't work out and you have a hard conversation with them, it doesn't cost you much to carry an offensive tackle. The upside is tremendous if that guy hits. Of course, you're going to have to pay him in time if he becomes a starter. But the carrying cost is not all that expensive. The carrying cost of an offensive tackle, if they're really talented, is very expensive. And that makes the evaluation even more important. OU starting to get some really good value out of Michael Fasusi. It was a little touch and go earlier in the season. So, but when you expend that much, like they spent on Fasusi, and they spent a ton, you have to be right, and they're going to be right on Fasusi, and he's already rounding into form. He's a good player. You're not going to find Kelvin Banks probably ever again if you're Texas, but you can find some Fasusis that are going to be ready earlier in their career. Texas just had a bad plan on offensive line out of the season and in the season.
That's right. Waiting week 8 to find this lineup in week 8. It's kind of bad, but
and tight end. So and we'll talk about that when we're talking about marrying personnel and scheme. But
and running back. I mean, if you're talking about running back, running back is the biggest one. They looked at wide receiver. They did. They tried to go after some guys, and they have the magic touch of who's going to break out. The guy that broke out, he just didn't go into the portal. They had their eyes on him if he did. A little bit of bad luck there. The drops are just really magnified because of the magnitude of that game. I get the plan, but they really messed up on thinking that Wingo could be a number 1 this year, and I messed up in thinking that as well. I was kind of drafting off of their opinion. So right now Ryan Wingo's a question going into next season about whether or not he's a number 1, right? I think most of us would say, I don't know. So he must have really been a question for them to come into this season with him, and they didn't see it. So that's another, their self-scouting and evaluation is not great.
Yeah. Coach, give me some.
I would say, look, you're right on point. I think it's the small things. The drop catches is just turning your hands over the right way when the ball's coming. Like DeAndre Moore, you had your hands one way, you should have flipped them the other way. Maybe you catch the ball. Like, it's just small things that I'm sure they work on in practice. Giving Ryan Wingos the credit, he adjusted well on the deep ball. He got inside the DB, he tracked it well, but then he didn't come down with the catch. Like, just finish, right? I think you spend too much time trying to make him the number one when Mosley's your number one receiver, right? But then you take him off the field in 12 personnel. It's like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? DeAndre Moore doesn't get enough opportunities that he should get. When he does, he takes advantage of them. He always moves the chains. He does something special, then he's out of the game. So I just don't understand. Like, you don't let these guys get any rhythm being on the field. Then he's like, go back out there and then go make a play. It's like, I'm not in the game. I'm kind of cold. Like, let me get in some rhythm, keep me out there, keep the hot guys out there. I don't feel like they do that enough whatsoever.
Well, with a skilled wide receiver, he needs to work on his corner. Like, he needs to understand what his corner does. Like, he needs reps, right? He needs time to set him up because he needs 3 reps at the beginning of the game to do this. And then in the fourth quarter, now he's going to build off that and do that. That's how his touchdown's going to come. But if you're not giving him time to learn his corner and set his corner up for later in the game, it's like a play caller, then he doesn't have the bag of tricks he needs. So wide receivers need time to develop their deception down the field. And Eric, tell me if I'm wrong here. You're a true personnel guy. Do you feel like we chase potential upside and forego some players that just are going to be more solid because X player has higher draft stock? I know you want NFL draft stock. I'm not dumb there. I totally get it. But I think of like putting one safety in over another because one safety in depth has technically more tangible NFL trade.
It's not about the draft stock necessarily. That's a secondary factor just because they're chasing upside because that player does have more upside. Xavier Filsaime is one of the fastest guys on the team, so they're trying to get that guy out there. Wingo, they're chasing upside there. Who wouldn't rather have Mosley and Moore out there if they're in 12 personnel right now? Moore had that bad drop, but he'd been pretty clutch the entire season since before that drop. Yeah, they're chasing upside. Ryan Wingo is a special player with the ball in his hands, and you want him out there. Sark's chasing that big play. When I think there's been a lot of times you should chase that first down. Just go get the first down and then go get another one. Get the offense in rhythm. Arch has proven the ability to drive the team down the field. He's been accurate. He's been consistent in the last few games. And they need to lean into 11 personnel next year. If I start hearing more about 12 personnel in spring ball and they didn't go get 2 mashers at tight end, we'll lose it.
Yeah. All right. Before we keep going, guys, let's hear a word from Academy. The holiday season is here, and Academy Sports and Outdoors has the legendary gifts you need at undefeatable prices every single day. Shop in store or online at academy.com to save on gifts on everybody's list. From football jerseys and basketball hoops to fire pits and deer stands, the most wonderful time of the year happens here. This Christmas, give the gift of fun from Academy Sports and Outdoors. All right, gentlemen.
Hey, Vance Bedford over here. Thanks for coming on, Coach. This is exactly what Paul has been writing about.
We run too many isolation routes. Where are the concepts to attack coverages?
Not only coverages, but weak personnel. Sark doesn't tend – we saw it against Vandy, right, when they went after that one dude that had the, blonde Whoopi Goldberg hair. They torched that guy. We haven't seen enough of that. Where's the weak link? Somehow everybody finds Texas's weak link.
Yeah. Man, it's college football. You attack the guy that's not a professional football player. Like, what an incredible advantage. You have an NFL player versus just a future citizen, and you're still like, no, I'm going to do that. Like, the NFL is tough because everyone's in the NFL, but you can literally face pro NFL players versus future normal guys.
Kelson's having an identity crisis in the comments here. Sark is chasing 12 personnel, LOL.
Yeah, Georgia makes me want 12. Well, Georgia can – that was frustrating doing the film breakdowns with everybody. Everyone privately, or like not on the video, was like, man, that's what Sark wants to be. Like the actual tight ends that block for real block, run block, and then on top of that, they're nice in the pass game. Like that's what Sark wants to be. And
recruit it.
Yeah, I know. But it's like I'm on year 4 of being like, tight ends are not just big receivers. They have to do both parts. And for some reason, they cannot figure it out over there at DKR.
They should just bird dog other programs. Like, who did Iowa offer on the offensive line? Who did Georgia offer at tight end?
Go flip them.
Yeah. It used to be with Utah. Like, who did Utah offer at linebacker?
Go get Utah. Who's Utah offering at offensive line? They got 2 guys that are about to go in the first. They got it figured out there on the evaluation.
Yeah, everybody used to follow Gary Patterson. If Gary Patterson offered a guy, you go offer the same guy type thing.
Yeah, if Gary Patterson offered some random athlete out of northern Louisiana, we would all watch the huddle and go, "Oh man, look at this guy! This guy's a beast."
Yeah, you're right. There are certain like position rooms at certain schools that you just tail their picks for sure. All right, and then of course the head coach versus play caller dilemma. A couple weeks ago, me and Ian did a really good show on it. I had a lot of fun. He tended to not want to do that. I wanted to do that. I knew my position would only grow stronger, but it's tough. You don't want to be first out on those kind of ideas because the fans do not like it. But I've seen some variations of the argument. I'm actually arguing as a play caller. I don't like his decision making. Like he designs great. He will design the sickest screen you've ever seen. That's not enough for me. I need situational play calling. I need scoring over 20 points versus good teams. I need to be able to run. And then I've said, too, it feels like the offense is predetermined from the game plan of the week or before the drive. This drive, we're going to run the ball, regardless if it works or not. Yeah, I don't think the game comes to Sark well. I think he's trying to execute his game plan no matter what. And he doesn't find the weak guy to match him up. He doesn't flow well. It seems like when it's obvious we should be passing, he decides to run and vice versa. So I'm still arguing the initial point. Other people have made variations on this, which I also like. But it's the argument I think is strongest right now and people agree most with is that, look, I like his offense. I like his play calling, but sometimes it's interfering with his ability to head coach on the sidelines. So if anyone would like to defend that position.
You know what, Homer? I want to see us attack and use some concepts that other teams use. Like when Georgia runs like an invert cover 2, they leave the middle of the field wide open. They've been busting the coverage all year. Why didn't we attack it? Like, you have to watch film. I know you try to take your scheme and marry it close to what another team did, but we didn't even attack the concepts coverages that they bust. So it's like, why not attack that? Make them prove that they can stop certain things. And I feel like we didn't do that whatsoever because you got this ideal of what you think is going to work, or you got to have your play. And it's like, no, dude, sometimes keep it simple. Attack the exact same thing that they've been busting. We've been busting cover 3 all year. You see people attack the seams all day. Why can't we flip side do the exact same thing? That's the issue for me. And then, if the running game is working, I know you don't want to run the ball maybe. Just try to continue. But then I guess on the flip side, when your running back is tiptoeing, in the game too, who do you trust to put back there? So I don't know.
Here's my thing. If you've never had a top 15 offense at Texas, I can't call you an elite play caller. Elite is as elite does. There's examples in the past, but I need to see elite results from calling somebody elite at the position. And it's dog years in coaching, man. There's people that can have sick moments, but for some reason defenses catches up or something like that. But I need elite results to continually say a play caller is effective at that elite level.
When I was 18 and, kind of pretending I was going to go to college, I was also working full-time like 60 hours a week and trying to take 12 hours. And people ask me, how are you going to do both? I said, well, I'm going to half-ass it. I'm going to half-ass each. And that wasn't me like intentionally doing it. It was me being realistic with the workload. Sark needs to be realistic with the workload because one game it can be, hey, man, he was on fire at play calling, but his situational awareness wasn't great. Another one, it could be, hey, maybe situational awareness was great, but the play calling was suffering. Last weekend, of course, we saw you got out coached by Kirby Smart, and that's really to me what defined that game. So he's got to figure out if he needs. I thought he did better when he had Joe DeCamillis on the sidelines, and DeCamillis would actually be the guy that would head up their weekly meetings with the entire team about situational awareness. After DeCamillis left. They go over all the situations. This is what we do if we have one timeout, just everything you could possibly think of in a football game that we see every weekend. Once DeCamillis left, that was back on Sark. And so, not having that guy on the headsets, I think hurts. So, if Sark wants to continue to do this, he's going to have to get some sage over there on the sideline in his ear or he needs to get more help play calling. I mean, an option would be to just let Milwee call the plays, and Sark would still provide significant oversight.
Yeah, and Sark has a pretty big system. Like the playbook is wide, right? Like you have every run concept known to man in it. They do have shorter concepts. They just don't call them often. So it's like, well, if Milwee calls, it's just the same offense. It's like Sark's offense is offense. So even if you got a different play caller or a protege, they would still select at different times, right? There's only the same notes on the piano. People play them differently, right? And make different songs from the same notes, right? That's what a caller can do, especially in a Sark system that is big. So it doesn't mean it would just be the same results. They could play the notes in different ways to create different songs.
I think I missed some questions. They're talking about special teams now. Coach Bedford brings up a good point. How does Ohio State find running backs and wide receivers every year? I mean, they're very good at that. Heartline's got an established reputation. But here's the point. Their O-line, Ohio State's O-line is average, and typically it has been. Last year they had some injuries. They were still pretty good. Texas doesn't play physical, and that's a big part of the problem here. I joked about Yancey McKnight, Herman's old strength and conditioning coach, should get the team on Tuesday and Thursdays, and he'll get them strong, and then Becton can have them the rest of the week, and then he'll get them flexible. Just split the load share. But Yancey McKnight always had they had some physical teams, man. Texas never got pushed around with that strength and conditioning program. So they do have to get stronger in the lower body. I ended up writing about that quite a bit in that latest article. Sark has to do an entire audit over everything that he directly controls that directly comes from his decision-making. And part of that is culture, which he talks about all the time. At this point, I'm wondering if he's trying to manifest it and talk it into existence, and physicality, which stems from strength, power, and, having a very competitive strength and conditioning program.
One point that you make is Texas out-coached, not out-talented, right? And, there can be arguments that Georgia was higher in a development cycle or blah, blah, blah. But the point is the point Eric makes is Georgia's not 25 points more talented.
Yeah. If you go by the message board, you'll hear talent. If you go look at, a number of former Texas players on Twitter, and I fully agree with them, it's not a talent issue. It's a development. It's a deployment. The talent is comparable.
Well, if you look at On3's ranking, the number most talented team is Texas. Guess who number 2 is? Georgia, right?
Yeah.
So from objective measures, these teams are very close in talent. You can argue that this player is older or has more reps, sure, but they're not 25 points more talented.
Yeah, Patrick Page says they bullied us Saturday. Yeah, that's not necessarily talent. Go back a couple years ago when Utah beat USC. They just beat them up physically on the field, won the Pac, whatever it was at that time. That was due to physicality, and that's not. And obviously USC has more talent, more raw talent than Utah. So it's culture program, and that's why Kirby went straight to his press conference and ran a recruiting commercial about it.
Man, you know what? They may have been a more physical team, but also you got fatigue set in. They had the ball for like 12 minutes straight too. Like they really started to lean on us. But the defense was out there for so long that nobody really talks about. Like that's a lot of minutes you're on the field. I mean, you're grabbing, you're holding, got your hands on your hips. You're just trying to catch your breath, and here they come at you. You know, and so there's a lot that played into that.
It's a cumulative fatigue too. This Texas defense is one of the worst at facing the most plays throughout the season. We've been to several overtimes, so there's a cumulative fatigue as well. But that comes back to coaching. Kirby goes for it on 4th, kicks the onside. He made Texas be on the field.
He did,
And so it wasn't just accidental that sometimes happened. It was by design, and they were able to execute that design. So that was a factor.
We haven't really seen lack of physicality be an issue in the past. I mean, you would like to see it out of certain players, right? Hayden Connor at left guard was not an overly physical guard, but I mean, they've been physical enough in the past. They just right now. I think they just lack strength in the lower body. On the offensive line, that's the big issue.
Well, if you watch like the huddles, right, when we do for the high school guys, like Campbell was mean. Neto, we're not going to bring up the Neto thing, but Neto was mean.
I forgot about Neto. Oh man,
Cole Hudson was mean too. He's from a running offense when he was in Frisco, and of course they're going to pancake guys because they're college players versus little guys. But like these guys had aggression on their tape. And so I've seen a little less of that. Now, some of that is you're more controlled in college. You can't, these guys in high school just dive at people and basically just pancake tackle them. But there's some of that. And it is strength, right? Some of the lunging you see and stuff like that is a lack of confidence to be able to take on a guy or the power. But they are less, I don't know if it's aggressive, but the mindset is not the same as their college tape. Some of that is going to be different naturally, but I have noticed that. It's not like we were taking timid guys out of high school. And that's kind of becoming the narrative. Like Texas takes soft players. It's like, not on the huddle. These are not soft players.
Not soft. They just kind of catch blocks. It's just technique. And it's technique and strength, honestly. You can't catch blocks as an offensive lineman. You got to move your feet and drive your feet. You can't let the defender come into you, into your body. Like, this doesn't make sense. It's not going to work unless you're super strong and you can catch them and then drive them. But it's just not going to work.
This is a way to talk about soft coverages. Has the game passed up Akina, or does PK call too many soft coverages? I mean, we're running cover 3, so like cover 3 has not been passed up, but the busts are concerning. That's where it is.
The timing of their coverages is concerning too. They had a 3rd and 10, and guys backed off 15 yards. I mean, it's just a freebie.
Well, it's like I understand the NFL style because that's the style now. Like you play like
3rd and 10.
I was going to say, here's the problem.
Yeah.
They're not applying it where it makes sense. Like the whole bend but don't break, that's the NFL now, right? And it's generally more too high, but not in that situation. Not when Georgia can see pre-snap that they're going to get the first down. That's where it's weird. I'm not mad at like the rally and tackle thing, but some of those play calls in those situations are tough.
The start of the game was bad. We were rolling our entire coverage. Like the corner would go to free safety and bring the safety down when they ran trips. Like, why are we doing that? The boundary is short now. And the touchdown against Gilbo, he was out of alignment already because he moved to free safety on the motion, and Noah Thomas tightened. And then he runs the corner right now. He still could have made a play on the ball, but why are you rocking and rolling your entire coverage over versus just the safeties? I didn't understand that because you left the short side of the field or the field side wide open with no contained player.
And it was by design. And they did it, on the 4th and 1, they got Manny with it because they put the tackle over and the tight end. They made Manny look inside and they brought him out. Like a lot of Bobo won that game. That was Bobo.
That too.
They had some players, but like the players didn't just like the play got made because the only one is Noah Thomas that like made the play. All of that was them breaking our defense. And we've said it, and luckily Drew and Jet early in the season were like perimeter is a problem and seams are a problem in cover 3. Well, how did we get attacked? On the perimeter and in the seams. And so we got to figure that out because we're weak there. And eventually a smart OC would try it, and a smart OC did try it. So you got to, I guess, fix it in week 19. I don't know what to do at that point, but it's that's tough.
Brian Nelson, I would just play Phillips for next year. I think that's the plan. You got the guy caught a touchdown on him on probably the best throw either quarterback had all day.
Good route. And Phillips got back in the mix. He stuck his arm out. Like, I'm not mad at Phillips on that rep, man.
I think it's obvious they've got to start Phillips and Littleton at corner next year and probably bring in a veteran. My feelings on Warren Roberson.
Yeah. I'm worried about the IQ drop off at safety after Taff and McDonald leave portal for sure. But it's not even
McDonald ended coming back after that game.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The IQ doesn't look good right now because they're out of position and they're being put in bad positions. Right. And the offensive coordinators are breaking their rules and forcing our players to be wrong. It's the DC or the pass game coordinator, whoever it is getting cooked, and it's making all of our players look dumb. And that's what happens whenever the defense is bad. It makes your players look dumb because they're constantly out of position.
Well, I mean, you can almost reduce this to, what changed. Taft didn't change. McDonald didn't change. PK didn't change. Pass rush didn't change. What changed? It's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Bobo forced all that stuff. He sure did, man. He
did.
Cooking, man. When I was watching the All-22, I was like, yikes, dude.
Yeah.
Like
that's Bobo's like their own, we've all got every fan base has their experts. You had the fire start crowd, the fire PK crowd, the fire everybody crowd. Nobody was more vocal than fire Mike Bobo crowd. And then here they are, Bobo cook Texas.
Well, that's Georgia's success. It's not their defense like this year. It's like their success is Bobo, and they're like, oh, it's Gunnar Stockton. It's like Gunnar Stockton makes good plays. He's being handed 90% of those. Here you go.
Yeah, I saw somebody saying, "Oh man, good thing Arch didn't come here. He wasn't going to play." Are you kidding me? Arch would have.
Yeah,
Arch in that offense would be on easy mode, autopilot.
Yeah.
Bobo's the MVP.
Definitely.
If you don't study scheme, you're not going to be able to kind of figure that out. But it's the reason for Georgia's success is Bobo. Okay, so we addressed a lot of the problems, right? Woe is us. But we're going to hit a little bit of the solutions and things that can be semi-quick fixes without a savior player having to – remember the beginning of the season? What if you play this third-string player? I was like, guys, this is what being bad feels like. You start looking for the savior. But Sark needs to double down on himself, I think, is the thesis here. But we need to figure out how to do it. Point one, too much trust in the staff.
Well, I mean, he's got to, first of all, the whole point of that article is, Sark has to kind of, be introspective and figure out what he got wrong. First of all, he's got to address what he's got wrong. Hopefully he has a very good idea of much of it already. He likes to run an audit about the whole program, how the whole program is running at the end of each season. He better have his personal Steve Sarkisian did this wrong chapter mostly outlined in his head. And he's got to make a lot of changes. And, we'll get into what needs to happen. But first and foremost has to start with Sark because he's where the buck stops. If Kyle Flood makes a mistake on not taking offensive lineman, that's a Steve Sarkisian mistake.
Yeah, 100%. This is what I get a little nervous with, right? Too much trust in staff and, hinting at that, hey, we need some changes on the staff. Whoever it may be, you guys can take your guesses. But what I do worry about too is we need all these guys from the portal. We need changes on staff. Sark needs to reevaluate how he calls offense, if he calls offense. Well, at that point, you could end up in just a total a rebuild style next year.
Well, I don't think it's that bad. But it does start. It goes in layers, right? So once you figure out what personnel do you really want, what packages do you truly want to do? If you want to run 12 personnel for all the reasons that you guys were talking about, Drew in the comments, you right here, then okay, that's fine. But be honest about what you need. You need a better blocking tight end, not some guy that you're going to hope to develop over the offseason. Go get a freaking blocking tight end. They're not that expensive. There. So just know who you want to be. That's what I'm saying. Be introspective. What do you want to be? What schemes do you want to run? If you want to run outside zone, you could probably go find some goofball at Montana State that's run it 5 million times in his life. That's 6'2", 305 pounds and doesn't look the part, but plays the part and is smart and experienced. But if you want to run downhill, you need a giant guy. You need powerful guys, guys that are already strong, that are ready made. And if you want to run every scheme like he wants to do, then you have to have elite players.
Right.
If you find Kelvin Banks, it doesn't matter what scheme you put him in. It doesn't matter what scheme Michael Fasusi is put in. But those guys cost a ton of money. So you just have to know what you want to do. If you want to run outside zone, there's different ways that you can have success with that. The Denver Broncos had a small offensive line and one of the best run games in the history of the NFL. Cowboys ran more downhill, and they had Larry Allen and Eric Williams and all these other. Now, Stepnoski was small, but he was surrounded by giants. You just have to know who you want to be, and then that informs your decisions downstream. It's not that big. You just have to figure out the main points first, and then that informs what you're going to do from there.
Well, that's what I worry about. It seems like Sark wants to have a theoretical counter for everything and be able to run every personnel besides 10, God forbid, 10 personnel. And then I'd like inside zone, and I'd like to pair it with this. And so it's like, if he can narrow his focus, because that's the only way you're going to, like you're saying, recruit or portal the right guys.
Right.
But that's going to be tricky. But I do worry about this many coaching changes. Then you need a philosophical change. Then you need that. My point is this. We can't have an off year next year. That's my only point.
Yeah, bring up Coach Bedford's there. Bedford had another good point about if you want to be physical, you run gap schemes. Remember we talked about they were running gap schemes all offseason, and it turns out they're not the most physical. Sark wants to run downhill. We know that. He wants to be vertical run, vertical pass, and he has not gotten anywhere close to that in his 5 years at Texas. Some of that is, the quarterback wasn't really there for the vertical pass. This year, the only component he came into with vertical run, vertical pass was a quarterback that could throw it downfield, and that quarterback never had enough time to do it. The running game damn sure wasn't there to do it. So if that's what he wants to be, then he has to be honest about the pieces he has to work with, and he needs to go make very immediate fixes. And they have to, if you want to run downhill, you're going to have to import strength. You're going to have to You're gonna have to spend a lot on offensive line. You're gonna have to get a bigger physical running back. You don't have to be as big and physical if you want to run outside zone. It helps if you can do all of it. If Sark wants to be 12 personnel and run downhill, then he's gonna have a whole different offseason than if he wants to run outside zone. And if he wants to run outside zone more, you're gonna need different personnel.
You know what? PFF and the portal, it makes it easy. You can go scout those guys. You can look at it by what they do best and break down the film. And then you got to have some tough conversation with some of the guys on the team. You're just not cutting it. You don't work out. We're going to have to restructure contract. Like, you're going to have some tough conversations. You're not cutting the mustard. You either take a pay cut or you got to go. Like, what happened to having tough conversations with kids? Say, look, you just don't fit in what we do. And then moving on, trying to find your guy. It's okay to admit your mistake, but if you never fix it and they still send the same guy out there and thinking he's going to all of a sudden turn into the player you want, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mentioned that in the introspection piece. Like, you got to have tough conversations with it. Can be your best friend that's on your staff, or your favorite player. That doesn't matter, man. You got to win games. Restructure contract, I think, is the best way to go. But if you need the spot, then you got to make room.
Yeah, it's tough because loyalty is generally a virtue, right? But in that world, you can't be loyal to people that aren't performing, right? That's where it gets really tricky.
And it's not being disloyal if you're not performing. It's,
right.
It's one thing to go stab somebody in the back. It's another thing to have an honest conversation and say, hey, look, man, we've messed this up too much, and I've got to get it fixed. And I can't leave anything to chance.
Right, exactly. But yeah, you got to make that switch in your head. And your job's to perform for the University of Texas, not who you like the most or who you have history with. Yeah, what is the run game identity for 2026? Yep. And then people have mentioned in the chat strength and conditioning considerations. This has become a popular topic. I blame Paul Wadlington for getting into the ethos so effectively with that. But what do you guys think? I'm down, but it's some positions I think are solid. Some I don't think are solid. So is it just little tweaks to how not all athletes are the same. They're not asked to perform the same tasks. So sometimes you change things up a little bit. Apparently someone's in my home. I'll go check on that.
Yeah, I would. My bigger issue on strength and conditioning is really with the offensive line, but there's, you got to have a full conversation about it. The defensive linemen have not really lacked athleticism and power. I think it's a different bit of a gene pool. That the defensive linemen have been more talented than the offensive linemen, and certainly the interior offensive linemen that Texas has had. Look at the upside of a guy like Vernon Broughton, just the athletic raw upside of Vernon Broughton and Alfred Collins. Those guys have much more upside than Connor Stroh or even Hayden Connor. So those guys are going to be stronger and more powerful by nature. But I think that they do tailor their strength and conditioning program different for the bigs than they do the smalls, but all the big guys are doing the same exact lifts. So I do think they need to lift heavier. I've asked some guys that were out of the program how much they lift heavy, and I had one guy tell me, man, the last time I lifted heavy was in high school. And so that's a bit of a question. You want that bar bending, you want guys straining underneath, you need power at the point of attack.
Yeah, I was wondering, when the last time we seen a video of a big offensive lineman in the offseason squatting a bunch of weight and everybody around him? Like, you don't see it. Like, I want to see more of that as well. Like, the reason you can't anchor and block someone because you just don't have the strength in the lower body. So, like, lift heavier weights, get stronger. There's a way to do it where you're not, overextending. You're not Yancey McKnight and hey, we squatted 700 pounds and then we're big and bulky and can't move. Like, there's ways to do it. I think maybe bring in another consultant, maybe to help Becton or whatever the case, but something has to be done in the strength and conditioning room.
Well, I mean, he should just say, hey, he should tell Pete Carroll and Nick Saban, hey, this is what my left guard squats. What did your left guard squat? And, I guarantee you'd see a different number. If you can bring up Vance Bedford's recent one, is the strength coach new this year? If not, why are people complaining? Well, they haven't been able to drive people off the ball on the offensive line at any point. Last year, they got worked by Georgia, Ohio State, even Arizona State, maybe a bit different reason than the other two, but they've never been a downhill physical offensive line. So that's why people are complaining. And it's been compounded because they've been downright poor this year running downhill for the most part.
Yeah, it was just somebody asking for an autograph. I hate that, man. But it's just part of the job, dude. And whatever you guys said, I agree with. All right.
Yeah.
Culture, right? It's all about culture. And we talked about that a lot, but Kirby's the one that kind of hammered that in when he was cutting WWE promos post game. Then it's like, you can talk about culture, man, but you see culture right there.
Hey, well, if you go back to Big 12 media or Big 12, I don't know why I keep saying that because I used to attend those SEC media days. Remember, like Sark's pulling commits right as like Kirby's basically up on the dais. Sark's pulling these big commits. He pulled Atkinson, the James Johnson too. Maybe I don't know. He's pulling these guys out from under Kirby Smart, and we're all we're really enjoying that. And then I think that was a little extra incentive for Kirby this past week. I find it impossible to believe those two can be friends. I cannot be friends.
I think Kirby's just keeping tabs on him. I don't think Kirby's his friend at all.
I just don't believe the friendship angle of that relationship.
Friends don't let friends onside kick each other like that. But also it's funny because he's like, the players we take at Georgia are physical. It's like we're after the same players, Kirby.
Exactly.
Like we won the battle, but it's the same guys. So, but I'm not arguing is they're more physical. The culture on the field, their execution is better. They didn't get penalties in a big game. Should they have had more? Blah blah blah. I don't care. I don't want to get into that. But that's my point. Is the culture is showing on the field in big games versus equal talent more than it's showing at Texas, regardless of if everyone likes each other in the locker room, right?
Yeah, we talked about that. The team taking on the personality of the coach. I mean, I don't know. It could be something to it. Like maybe the practices in Georgia are way more physical. Like maybe they breed this competition. I know we talk about competition in the building every day in Texas, but it has to be different. There has to be a different level of competition that goes on in Athens than it does in Austin.
Kirby was a feisty DB, and Sark was a baseball player.
Yeah.
At least first, then a quarterback.
He was a quarterback.
Right? But hey, who had the toughest culture in college football this century? It might be Jim Harbaugh. What position did he play?
What position did he play? Was he O-line?
Quarterback. Harbaugh was quarterback for the Colts forever, man.
Yeah,
he wore headbands before they were cool. I mean, headbands.
I don't know why I totally blanked on that. All right, Urban Meyer, Nick Saban, and now Kirby believed in tough physical culture. The offseason program was about that. Well, we believe in explosivity. All right. They have a bully culture. Yeah, we get it, guys. All right. We get it. They're tougher than us. But shout out Kirby on the mic afterwards. But I think it's keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer with Kirby there. Because
block his number, sorry. Block his number. Don't let him text you, man.
Yeah, don't let him text you like that, dude. Because friends don't do that. Friends don't do that to each other, man.
Maybe Sark needs a visor.
Yeah, that's possible. And then finally, the big point is going to be willingness to make hard decisions. But before we hit that, let's hear a word from our main man, Andre the Lawyer. Texans know when you're injured, there's one name that gets results: Andre the Lawyer. Trust the team that has secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans win their injury cases. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, wrongful deaths. Don't let the insurance companies tell you what your claim is worth. Andre the Lawyer will fight for you. His principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait. Call 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. Contact info is in the description. This point always cracks me up. I want linemen with criminal records from now on. And then Drew, we also bring in players who stay out of trouble. Nobody's taking Georgia's arrest now. Guys, do you want our players to get arrested? Like, what is the flip side of this?
Leave that Drew one up, because I was watching the Eagle game last night, and the juxtaposition between Jalen Carter next to Moro Ojimo was cracking me up. Moro's like the greatest dude of all time, man. Yeah. And having his way, man. That guy is balling. He's playing so well. But yeah, having him next to Jalen Carter, I'm like, what do these guys actually talk about after the game? I don't know.
Yeah. I get one players who wins.
I thought that was me.
No, I think that's me. It's the fire guys. They're like, we're coming by and doing inspection. So I think they're like running people's fire alarms or something going on here. So there's
thanks for reposting that. Thanks for reposting us, Coach. That means a lot.
Yeah, thank you, Coach. Okay, this is the best point. Let's compromise and just do a lot of misdemeanors. And while Arch is out there in the streets, he's getting pulled over 24/7. We had our left guard that's the problem, is our left guard worked with the police. We need him not working with the police. I'm getting swatted. Yeah, it's just the price of fame, guys. All right. Any final points do you think stick out? We've hit a lot of it. What do you think we need to see going forward? Arkansas's defense is horrific,
Right.
but Texas' offensive performance in the past, I think it's more consistent now. I'll give you that. Wasn't tied to the success of the defense we were playing. It was tied to the decision making going on. But their offense is the real deal, man. They can score for real. And so looking over Arkansas in like a shootout scenario, I think would be unwise. And then, of course, A&M. But what do we need to see these last two, fellas?
I was going to say, I don't want to get in a shootout with Arkansas. I want to see these guys don't play like the season's over. Like, you still got something to play for. Don't start, well, I only got 2 games left. The bowl game's not going to mean anything. Like, you're still playing for something. So I want to see that kind of effort. I don't think they'll lay down and quit, but I want them to come out flat like, well, I ain't going to say A&M came out flat, but, South Carolina got up on them, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to get in that situation against Arkansas because they can score, and I don't want us to be like, oh, well, and that's kind of play for next year at this point. I don't want to see any kind of quit.
Yeah, all over the country, you see teams that have nothing to play for in quotation marks, because I think you always have something to play for if you're lining up. Trying to go for the upset, trying to, look how South Carolina came out. They're 1-6 or whatever they are in the SEC. They're technically playing for nothing. But, also I think there's financial incentive. In NIL area, you're always playing for something. You're playing for your value this offseason. So they need to keep playing hard. Arkansas is still a rivalry game. Mm-hmm. Arkansas has a potent offense, like we talked about. And if you have to even talk about why you should play hard against Texas A&M, man, get out of the program.
Yeah. Are y'all? How do y'all feel about playoff chances?
That's off my radar right now. I mean, once I saw OU beat Alabama, I was like, they got to win out. I guess it's still technically possible.
Yeah.
But that's they shouldn't need that as a carrot and stick right now. Just keep playing hard, play hard, earn your spot for next year, earn your draft grade. If you're hell bent on leaving, everybody's playing for something, even if it's individually or selfishly. But then they need to play for each other as a team. And it's easy to talk about culture when you're coming off back-to-back playoff trips and semifinals. But culture is when things are when it's hitting the fan. You got to come together, play hard. Go out and play well, less penalties, be physical, play discipline. That's what culture is.
Coach, you're not getting out of it.
Man, look, man. I mean,
you went before me.
I did, but
no, I want to hear, like, Coach has been on point all season. I want to hear like the real thought. Like, what do you think these next 2 games mean?
It means a lot. As far as the teams we play. Hey, I want to have the kind of aggressive that you're auditioning to play at Texas, and for us, you're auditioning to stay at Texas. Like, it got to mean something to you. Like Eric just said, either you're going to the NFL or you're auditioning for your job. Like, leave nothing to chance. You're not guaranteed a spot next year. It has to have that type of mentality around the program that you can't come out here and lay an egg. You can't come out here and play bad and think I'm gonna walk into my starting spot next year. So that's what I want to see from this team. Accountability just be raised all the way around the program.
Do you guys think Manny still leaves for the draft?
Yep.
Yeah.
They need to have a really good talk with Jelani. I'm not, Malik is always Manny. He's always been a 3-year player. I think he's had it in his mind he's going pro. I think it's in his mind. It doesn't matter to him if he goes 4th or 3rd. He's going to be in the NFL for 12 years.
Yeah. And then Jelani, hey, we know you got the upside, but come
back, be a leader. Come back. You got a chance to go first round if you come back. But first of all, it's a little delicate. But I don't. Those guys don't have the strongest relationship with Akina. Akina is 70-something years old. Not a whole lot of commonality there. So that's a bit of an issue. Who's talking him into coming back? He needs to know who his next coach would be if there's a change made. So that's a bit of an uphill battle, but there's obviously a reason to talk to him about coming back and going in the top 20 picks. That guy's got a chance to be special in the NFL, not just college.
Yeah, when he went up on that interception, I was like, okay, well.
Now you can see the ability.
That would be massive. That would be, I didn't know how big at the time it was, but I knew it was big when Tavondre came back. It was big when Jay Witt came back. There's been a couple others that got back. Jahdae Barron obviously was massive. I knew that one was big, but this would be probably the toughest guy to keep out of the NFL draft that they've had so far, if they can do it.
But here's my thing, right? Arch has one more year, if you want to take the Ohio State model of chips in and trying to maximize that window, then you got to bring back your fringe guys and some that aren't even fringe. And then you've got to execute in the portal and give him no projections, right? If it's a number one receiver, whatever it is, just leave no doubt, because there's one more year of Arch, and Ohio State showed you when they were hanging around the rim. Texas not hanging around the rim this year, but you get what I'm saying. You don't need to be in build mode. You need the guys that are borderline. Get them back if you can, unless the NFL is just so obvious for them. But so, I mean it. Anthony Hill needs to come back, and we'll solve that. No shot. But you got to push all the chips in on the table to maximize the Arch era, because I'll be incredibly disappointed if they don't put Arch in that situation to succeed.
Yeah, I agree.
Hi. All right. Join Inside Texas, guys. $1 for 1 month. We would love to see you over there. Come hang out. We can all commiserate. Coming up, guys, we got some good stuff for you. It's Arkansas week. We're going to have a bunch of film breakdowns this week as well. Of course, Joe and Evan on the beat. Dropping shorts for you guys, too. Go check out the shorts. If you have ADHD, it'll be really beneficial for you. We love you guys very much. Have a good day. Don't let Georgia get you down. And this was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Goodbye, everyone.